Hi friends, glad to be back today. And today I want to talk about addiction. I want to talk about the 12-step process. I really want to focus on step 1 because I think that's the toughest step to get to. We can talk about the 12-step process as a whole, but I think once we hit the first step and understand that, that's really the road to redemption. There's definitely a long road ahead, but I think that we need to consider this and we need to figure out how we get there, what it means, and how it affects somebody that's gone through the process and has gone through the rehabilitation. Joining me today, Michael Moulton. Michael, great to have you here.
Thank you.
And
I'm glad to be here.
It's great to have you.
Yeah.
It's awesome. We've done some radio shows recently together, and we really connected on not only a friendship level, but a respectful level, respect factor, but then an understanding. Because I think that I can articulate certain things here well, and I think that some people can articulate other things better. And that's why Michael is here on the show.
Thank you.
Okay, glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So let's talk about the 12-step process, and let's really focus on step 1, because I really think that a lot of times when people hear that and they hear AA and they talk about that, it seems like this huge different world to them. But how do you get started? How do you start on that first step and move forward? And what was that turning point that got you to decide that this is the right way?
And that's a good question. The first step is it starts off with one of the most comforting words that I could ever hear, and it's we. We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol or drugs, and that our lives had become unmanageable. So what that means is that Michael, if I say M2, that's a nickname of mine, but when I look back at my history of the very first drink that I had, back then, your parents let you have a sip of beer or something like that. It's not their fault. You know what I mean? They just, they handled it responsibly. But I'll never forget the first sip of beer I had. It was a spiritual awakening. I remember it to this day. In the front yard in Plano, Texas, and mowing the yard, and I've spilt more beer in one night than my dad's drinking in his whole life.
Wow.
And so as I drank this beer, I remember that. I don't remember my first Snickers bar, but I remember my first beer. So there was something spiritual about it, and it changed the way I felt. Through all the wreckage and everything, when I finally sat there and looked at my life, all the damage, lost relationships, the shame, the guilt, remorse, legal battles, legal consequences, the two common denominators were this: Michael and drugs and alcohol. Mm-hmm. Now, if I could remove drugs and alcohol from that, my life would be a lot different. Better? My life's pretty good today as a result. God works mysteriously, but it probably would have been less painful. All right? So that's what step 1 is I admit, okay, I'm powerless over drugs and alcohol. I'm a social drinker for about 3 seconds. Okay, I'm powerless over it. It becomes a god. And when I use it, it's unmanageable. So step 1 is getting honest. Mm-hmm. That's why in meetings, hi, I'm Michael. I'm a drug addict, alcoholic. That's why we admit that, okay? And that's what step 1 is. It's the only step I have to do perfect out of the 12 steps. Just don't drink or do drugs today. And I have a really good chance of having a pretty successful day.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And so it's basically about getting honest, being truthful for where we are right now.
Right. And step 1 is your story. Mm-hmm. Step 1 is what it was like and what it's like today. I mean, you tell your story when you're working with an accountability partner or sponsor. Step 1 will literally be, hey, pen and paper, write your story down. Tell me the pros and cons of alcohol and drugs in your life. And you'll see it on paper, it's lopsided. You'll see how lopsided it is. There's no victory in it. I mean, you don't see Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl trophy and holding it up going, I want to thank alcohol.
It's really gotten me through this.
It's all, you don't see a person in the Masters putting the green jacket on and go, this is a result of cocaine. So that's what the step 1 is that we just admit utter defeat.
And I think this applies to everybody that's watching this video, whether it is drugs or alcohol or food or pills or just being around toxic relationships that you're addicted to because of childhood situations. I think that we have to be honest and ask ourselves, what is best for me?
Right.
You know, and what is my journey? And whatever this is should this be included in my journey? Or is this something that I need to really figure out how to isolate, let go, mourn the loss of it, and move on?
Right. So step one is this, actually, is you simply remove the word alcohol and put in what has made your life unmanageable. We admitted that we are powerless over food and that our life has become unmanageable. We admitted that we are powerless over work and our life has become unmanageable. Or we have, you can see how we have admitted that we are powerless over gambling and our life has become unmanageable. So what it is, and if you really want to get down for the very spiritual person that's following, the Christian believer, that what it boils down, Dr. Jeff Warren, who's the pastor at Park Cities Baptist, we were having lunch a long time ago in McKinney, and I'll never forget when he said this. He says, we admitted that we were powerless over sin and that our life had become unmanageable. And that made a lot of sense to me, because then, and the cool thing about the 12 steps, the only time alcohol is mentioned is in the first step. The other 11 steps is a new way of life.
That's awesome.
That's what's incredible. So it's steps 1 and 2 tells me I have a disease. We don't talk about God, we don't talk about church or anything like that until we get into step 3. But step 1 and 2 is I just admit that I'm sick.
Defining the situation, is finding where you are, being honest about it.
Right.
And I think that's a big deal. I know some people out there are saying, well, I'm already honest with myself, and that's awesome, and we commend that. But I think a lot of times that honesty is tough because, it kind of, it takes away that sense that we're in control.
Right. Let me tell you where it was really hard. It was really hard after the relapses and coming back into the meetings, because I put that shame on myself. And once I did it, and these people just loved me. They said it's okay, to say I'm an alcoholic. I didn't have a problem saying that I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict because everybody knew. Everybody, there was no secret there, okay? My deal is admitting it and actually saying, okay, I need to be in recovery and actually do what I say I am. And that's to stop drinking and doing drugs. And I couldn't even imagine my life like that. I couldn't imagine. You mean, how do you go to a football game and not drink and go to the bathroom and do drugs? How do you go to this and do this? How do you do this? How do you do that? It was so foreign to me. How do you have a relationship with a girl and not be high and drunk? I had no clue.
Retraining everything over again.
Not even retraining, just being trained.
Being trained.
Steps 1, 2, and 3 is trust God.
Right.
4 through 11, clean house. We clean the wreckage of our past. And then step 12 is doing what I'm doing right now. Sharing my experience, strength, and hope for the one who hasn't done step 1, going, oh, if he can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? I get it. I can relate to what he's saying.
Let me ask you, so you were talking about how you had, the ego, and that was kind of your tool that you used when you first went in there, and you kind of don't remember, but you kind of do. Mm-hmm. I bet you see it now, and there's no judgment here, but I bet when you're at AA and you're there and you're working through it and you're on step 12, I bet you see folks coming in the door that's got that same attitude, and you're like, okay, they still haven't hit rock bottom. They're still in denial, right?
Yeah, I can't relate to the person that comes into a recovery group and picks up a desire chip and says, you know what, I haven't had a drink in a day, I want to try what you have, and they've got their card, their family, they got everything intact. I can't relate to that. I came into AA after being arrested after 27 mugshots and going to prison. That's when I came in. I came in broken. I mean, this disease stripped everything. So more power to them. But when the newcomer does come in, I get a lot of gratitude because I hear things that reminds me of the way I used to think and do. It's that manipulating. It's that denial. Basically, I'm here to let the heat get off of me. I'll get sober if everybody else around me will just change. I would never look at myself, And the world called that selfish. I said, I'm not selfish. I'm a great guy. I pick up bar tabs. I'll pay for dinner. I'm not a selfish guy at all. Well, I am. I'm a very selfish person,
When you deal with step 1 and you go through with that, I think that there's, besides the fact that you're being honest, that's also taking responsibility for one's life.
Right. And it's a relief. Once I do finally admit it and really admit it and say, listen, I'm a train wreck. I am an absolute train wreck. I am sick. I admit that I'm sick. Because this disease, Ashley, here's the frustrating thing. As a therapist, you can't help me until I self-diagnose myself and admit that I'm powerless over alcohol and drugs and my life's unmanageable. You can't help me. But once I admit that and put those walls down and I use a gift of willingness, because we have a gift of willingness, because I'm willing to go to any length to lie, steal, cheat, get my drugs, get my alcohol, and tell you that I'm not sick. That's a lot of willingness. But if I can spin that willingness around and say, okay, Ashley, I don't know how to live life. I don't have a clue how to live life. I'm willing to go to any length that it takes to stay sober. If that means walk everywhere I go, be okay with $7 in my pocket and accept that God says, hey, this is what we're going to do now. We're going to go help people. That's my journey, okay? But once we do that, it's called acceptance. And true acceptance has no resentments whatsoever. I used to accept stuff. I'd be mad, just, oh God, I can't handle it. But once I accept it with no resentments, and I say, you know what, Ashley, I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. You're a licensed therapist. Help me. I'm willing to do anything. If you tell me to go run up and down the street with no clothes on every Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll do it. I will do it because I have faith in you. I have trust in you. And that's what it takes.
Well, you're so right about that, because when I have clients that come into my office, I can't help somebody that's not going to be straight up honest about what's going on, because I don't even know it exists.
That's right.
I mean, because people can put on various masks and airs to make themselves look a certain way or to act a certain way. And if they're going to come into therapy and not be honest, then there's not a lot of help that can be there.
That's right. I used to do that. I was that guy. I mean, when people would try to help me, I'd listen to them. I'd tell them what they wanted to hear. Oh, yeah, you're right, or whatever, and just to get out of there, okay? And then I'd drive off and say, man, you're sick. I'm sick. I was the one that was sick. And the word sick is a scary word. It can be taboo, okay? There's nothing wrong. It's okay, because when we're sick, someone can help me, and then I can get well. And when I get well, I tell other people, hey, this is how I got well. And I share that with them. Because when I was drinking and using, I told a lot of people what was working for me. Hey, go do this drug. Go drink this drink. Go to this bar. Talk to this bartender. They changed the way I feel. Tell them I sent you. Okay? Now I do it this way. Hey, go see, Ashley Berges. Okay? Go pray. Go invite God into your life. Tell them I sent you. Same thing.
Let me ask you, so I know a lot of people watching are saying, hey, I might be in this situation, or I have a family member or a friend that I believe is dealing with addiction issues. And I think it can be hard to have that conversation. Just to help them, what are some of the lies when you're in that situation that you're telling yourself? What are some of the things that you're creating to kind of keep that facade intact?
What, of hiding the addiction? Well, it's called denial. I mean, it's the denial river. And, one of the facades is that we isolate and we disconnect. I mean, if someone wasn't like me, and once the disease got so bad, I didn't hang out with you. It was just a very, even family. I disengaged from family, and that's part of the wreckage of the past. That's the selfishness of it. That's what I would do. That's my personal story. Now, the greatest gift I can give those people today is just staying clean and sober. And God will, slowly but surely put them back into my life, or vice versa.
I often find that clients either isolate themselves or they find that group of people that find it okay.
They co-sign on my pain.
Yeah.
I find a group, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, that's, for me, the people at the bar, I would find people that were just like me, and they would co-sign on my pain. Oh, yeah, Michael, you're right. They are horrible people. We're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're
the best, man.
Yeah,
it's all going to be great.
Man. Divorce her. Get rid of her.
She's horrible.
You mean she actually cares about you and wants you to be home right now with those kids? Golly, that's her job. Get rid of her.
That's her problem.
That's her problem.
Right?
Come on, man. That's a group of sick people. And I was in that group.
But if you stay around, you're validating them too, and they're validating you, and so it's okay.
Yeah, piles attract piles.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's exactly right. But here's the great thing is that it works the other way too, and that's support groups. So you get a bunch of group and support, and they say, "Hey, Michael, I hear what you're saying. Here's a solution to the way that we feel now." You know, because a lot of people, and when I was in that situation, hanging around that group, I look back at it now. It was just a bunch of guys and girls just in fear. We were all in fear. You know, we had low self-esteem, and so we hung out with people that made us feel good.
Right.
You know?
And also in the same spot. I mean, you know, birds of a feather flock together. We have a tendency of doing that. And also it's easier because we know that there's not going to be any judgment. But the funny thing about it is that I find that when people are dealing with that situation, it's not necessarily outside judgment, it's personal judgment we don't want to hear as well.
Right. I mean, we don't want to hear. I don't want to. When I was sick, okay, and in the disease, I did not want to hear what I needed to hear.
Right.
Okay, Michael, don't drink. You're on probation. You have to give a UA tomorrow. Okay. Hey, see you later. Don't make me feel anxious. Okay. You know, I gotta make that feeling go. That's how dark it got. I mean, that's how dark it got. So that's right. We, you know, but today, talking to you and Danny Campbell and Christina Evans and the people around me, okay, I love it now. You know, hey, this is what I see. This is a suggestion. Healthy people say, hey, based on my personal experience, this is what I did. Man, I'm all ears, you know. But if someone's coming to me going, you need to do this, you need to do that, my walls go up. Okay.
And I think for most of us too, the last thing we want is somebody telling us what to do.
Right.
We want to find that within.
Right.
But if we don't have the tools to find that within, then what do?
Yeah. Well,
Then we're lost.
That's exactly right.
You know.
But okay, so the solution to that is we ask for help.
Exactly.
We go back to step one. You know, there's times I talked to a person in the program yesterday that's working the steps. She's been sober for 30-something years.
Wow.
And she's working the steps on cigarettes. So step one,
That's good.
She's admitting that she's powerless over cigarettes and that her life has become unmanageable. She may have lung cancer, you know. So now she's going to work through the steps. Why am I smoking these cigarettes? Okay. Well, first of all, there's a physical addiction. Okay. So she's got to detox.
Right.
And then once we detox, then we start going through the spiritual part, you know, to work through it.
And to understand that. So let me ask you, what's step two? Just because I want to talk about it a little bit before.
Step two is a great one, and I can tell you the history why there's step one and two, because the meat is step three. But step two is we came to believe that a power greater than ourself could restore us to sanity. Okay, so it's interesting when I go to 12-step groups, and I go to 2 a day, and so I go to that's my hangout, and when that topic comes up, immediately the newcomer, it's fun, I mean, I watch it, the newcomer goes, oh, I believe in God, and I grew up doing church and all that, whoop-de-whoop. That's that deal where I heard the old me. I'm sitting listening to it. I'm like, that's not what step two is about.
Right.
Has nothing to do with it. It's a power greater than ourself that could restore sanity. So what's that look like? What that looks like is maybe for one day I stay sober because I'm going to a support group meeting. That is a power greater than myself, greater than drugs and alcohol, that's keeping me sober for that one day. So I got to hold on to that. I go, okay, there is something out there that's bigger than drugs and alcohol. Okay, it's a power. It also has the word in there, sanity. Okay, I was so, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, M2's got his own definition. Okay, my definition is this is how dark my disease got. I was doing the same thing over and over and over, knowing what the result was going to be.
Exactly.
That's sick. That is really sick. No, I was drinking and doing drugs, knowing that I had to go to probation the next day and give a urinalysis report to them, knowing that I was going to go to prison, and I was drinking and doing drugs. That's a disease. That's insanity.
That's true.
That is really a sick deal. So steps 1 and 2 tells me that I have a disease. It tells me I have a disease, and that gets me in the door. Okay, cool. So I'm going to be around a bunch of people that have a disease. So that's comforting.
Okay.
And so that's what step 2 is.
That's
Came
cool.
to believe. Just It's not, just came to believe that. And some people go, well, what are you saying? Go worship a doorknob? If you don't drink that day, yes. Because it's a trick. Because you're eventually, the doorknob's not going to keep you sober. The doorknob's not going to keep me sober, okay? Because I realized through all the relapses that it's God, okay? But we're not talking about God yet, you know, because this is for the people. When I came into the program, I was spiritually, physically, and emotionally bankrupt, all right? So that's what step 1 and 2 are. Let's get physically better first. Let's get emotionally better first. We'll talk about the spirituality here in a little bit.
Yeah, because the last thing, when somebody's hit rock bottom and dealing with that stuff, the last thing they're going to sit there and say, oh yeah, God's here, you know, I'm just going to hold on to God right now when I haven't been even looking toward God for the last 10, 12 years, 15 years, and I'm just going to go and automatically believe. That's not going to be real for most people. You've got to work through each step and say, okay, yeah, there is a power greater than me, right? And I get it. And a lot of times when I talk to my clients, one of the things I say is, you know, no one is going to give you a Medal of Honor, you know, at the end for not living the life that you deserve.
Right.
You know, nobody's going to sit there at the pearly gates or wherever you manufacture, whatever you think it is in the end, is going to say, oh, well, you know what, Michael, here you go. Here's your Medal of Honor. You didn't.
There's no cap and gown in recovery.
No, there's no, like, here you go. Sorry that you didn't get to do all that stuff you wanted to do.
Right.
And I find that a lot of times we fall into that category. And what I've done in my own personal life, because I'm not perfect, okay, and I'm not ever going to say that I'm perfect because that's not reality. We've all had our ups and downs. We've all had our challenges. But the one thing that's gotten me out of any challenge that I've ever had is that I looked at it and I said, you know what? My life and my situation with God means more to me than this. And what this is doing is this is putting a barrier between me and my spirituality because I'm lying to myself.
That's what's up.
Okay? And this is fake, and this makes me feel bad, and it makes me feel weird, and it makes me feel wrong. Okay? And so I know that a lot of my friends have gone through a lot of issues. A lot of my clients have gone through a lot of issues. You've gone through issues. We've all gone through issues. But it's the way that we sit back and we say, okay, 1, perfection, that's BS. 2, I can get better and I can do everything I can to be better. But how do I do that and why do I do that? And what's going to sustain me on an every second-to-second basis? Because you're right, it's all about being sober for that day, for being sober that minute, that hour, that 16 hours, that 24 hours. And I think we have to take our day by day, even if you're watching this video and you go, hey, Ashley, you know, I'm not addicted to drugs or alcohol or whatever. What is it in your life that you're doing right now that's getting in the way of you experiencing real joy and being grateful? What is it? Are you spending time with people that put you down? Are you in an abusive marriage or abusive relationship, okay, that's taking you away from your reality, which is the reality, the truth of your grandeur, right? And why is that? Is that because of self-esteem issues from when you were a child? Is there a lot of things that are coming back around and you're allowing yourself to be in a cycle of toxicity?
Right.
And why are we choosing that? And I think just being able to examine, and if you think about the first step and the second step, that can be applied to anything in our life.
So that's exactly right. That is, that you nailed it. I mean, once again, and the comforting thing is, remember, the first word is we. This is a we program, all right? If it's an I program, if you know, I use I statements when I'm talking because it's my personal experience. If I use you statements, it comes across as blaming. Okay, I want people to be comfortable when I'm sharing my story. All right, but this is a we program because if I try to get sober by myself, I've tried that, and look where that ended up. I mean, it was a train wreck. I mean, you know, prison, jails, institutions, you know, failed suicide attempts. That's because I tried to do it my way. All right, and my life was completely unmanageable. This is a we deal. This is reaching out to Ashley Berges and saying, I need help. I need help. My life's unmanageable. You know, this relationship. You know, we admitted that we are powerless over Tom. That our life has become completely unmanageable. All right, and we look at that because what I've learned is alcohol and drugs are not my problem. That's only a symptom. That's only the symptom. Tom is only the symptom. The 12 steps, I look at me. What role did I play in the situation? How can I make it right? Because that's all I can control is what's right here. What's sitting in this chair is all I can control. And I have a hard time doing that by myself. It's a we deal, you know. And I gotta, you know, you and I talk at night, you know, and I love those talks, you know. And it's like, you know, how can we, and we talk about how we can help people. That's our gift. You know, there's engineers out there watching this, there's architects watching this, and there's people who sell clothes, whatever. And we all have our own little journey. our own little community of how. But no matter what, it's a we deal. You know,
it's all about we.
Yeah, it's a fellowship.
It's a village.
It is.
It's a village.
I had an incredible fellowship, but they almost killed me. That was the people at the bar. Well, we talked about it earlier, co-signing. Today, my fellowship is I surround myself with godly people that have the same journey. They're on the same journey as I am. You know, they trust God, clean house, help others, do the next right thing, and that's the people I want to surround myself with.
And you're right. I love what you said. Is that it begins with you. And that's the thing, too, is that we all talk about we want to see the change in the world. We want to make the world better. We want to change the world. We want to do this. You know, you'll hear your friends say, oh, we want to rule the world. And it all changes and starts with you. And that's the thing. It starts with me. It starts with you. It starts with we to change independently. And like what you said about hanging out with the toxic folks at the bar and how there was that camaraderie and that kind of, it was kind of like a village. Well, think about what a non-toxic, healthy village would feel like. I mean, you could go really far in your life if you were surrounded by people that really cared and genuinely loved you because they genuinely what? They genuinely cared and loved themselves unconditionally.
Right.
And that's the key. And I think that when you're going through the program, that's the thing that we all learn. Even if we're in the 12-step program, we're learning about it, we're in the process, is learning that when we have unconditional love for ourselves, that real love, we don't want to hurt ourselves. The idea of hurting ourselves and doing drugs and alcohol and really killing ourselves is killing our higher self. It's taking away from our soul. It's eating our soul. It's taking away from that heart and our gratitude, but it's also taking us away from God, but it's taking us away from ourselves too.
That's right.
And that's the big deal.
That's right.
Do you mind coming back on in a few days and talking about steps 3 and 4?
Any time, because this helps me. That's the whole thing is that this helps me.
Awesome.
I mean, and so absolutely. Hey, I just said I'm willing to do whatever it takes. If you told me to run up and down that street,
I won't make you do it naked.
Okay, good. Good. But I mean,
I won't make you do that. I got some stories when I lived in Miami where these people would break out of an institution and they would run down naked with arm restraints and like a plastic Minyards bag over their area. It was very interesting stuff. I'll tell you about that in a later video.
But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to stay clean and sober today.
Awesome.
Whatever it takes.
One last comment to the folks that are watching this, if they're dealing with the situation or they got a family member that's in the middle of it, what's a piece of advice that can maybe help them either get help or help that person get help?
Well, the only person that we can help is ourselves. And what my advice is you pick up the phone, call a healthy friend, someone who is healthy. Take that risk and take some advice and listen to them. If you're in addiction like me, you know, if you're in recovery and you're struggling with trying to get clean and sober, pick up the phone, message me. You know, my M2 at m2therockradio.com. I'm sorry, M2 at m2therock.com is my email address. Message me on Facebook, and we can get you set up with the right. There's tons of resources out there just waiting for the drug addict and alcoholic to self-diagnose themselves and say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Just pick up the phone and get it. Use your willingness to get help just like you use the willingness to get drugs and alcohol.
That's awesome. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for watching the video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Below this video, in the description, I'm going to put Michael's information in there, as well as some resources that you can connect with if you are dealing with this situation, have a family member or friend who is going through this as well. Oh, I almost forgot. Michael and I do a radio show on a weekly basis. We're going to put that information in the description as well. You can listen to that and give you some resources and some help to deal with addiction, to overcome addiction, to deal with reality, and better yet, to power yourself up and to find the direction and the life that you've always wanted. Thank you. Stay tuned, and don't forget to live your true life.